Indonesia has the second longest coastline in the world. The underwater scenery here is breathtaking, as are the coral reefs, which are home to many of the world's largest varieties of lobster. The town of Pantai Geseng is located in the volatile south coast of central Java. Here, fishermen often focus on catching lobsters for around 3 months of the year. Of course, they still have to comply with some government quota regulations. Normally, fishermen are prohibited from catching lobsters lighter than 300 grams or with shells smaller than 8 centimeters. Lobsters are caught using a variety of fishing gear throughout the year. But in Indonesia, lobster fishermen mainly use specialized lobster nets or traps. This primitive fishing method is carried out on small boats. For fishermen in Pantai Geseng, catching lobster is very easy. They just need to go to the sea in the bay near their home and fish, and they only spend around $8 in fuel per trip. In this area, fishermen often set nets to catch lobsters. This is because the sea here is too deep to use traps. Lobsters caught in traps are often still alive, so fishermen only keep those that are larger than the limit. But lobsters caught in nets are often dead when pulled out. The number of lobsters caught in the net is not very many. Removing spiny lobsters from the net is rather difficult. Fishermen must be very skillful so that the lobster still has enough claws to sell at a high price. They also want to be gentle so that the net does not tear, because the catch depends a lot on the quality of the net. Lobsters are preserved in seawater to maintain freshness and meat quality. Most fishing boats prepare preservation equipment. This is an important step in deciding what price your lobsters will sell for. After catching, lobsters are put into mesh bags. They are then soaked in seawater again so that they are still alive and fresh when brought ashore. If the catch is high and the quality of lobsters are good, traders can buy them for $20 per kilogram. Indonesia is an important country in the global seafood industry, focusing on tuna and squid. The country's squid fishing and processing industry has seen significant growth, with 95,000 tons of squid caught in 2023. Squid come out to feed at night, so squid fishermen use bright lights to lure them to the surface. Green lights are especially effective when fishing. Indonesian squid fishing vessels often move in groups of 20 to 30 vessels. The squid in this area is surrounded by bright lights throughout the night. Traditional techniques are also one of the best for commercial fishing. Squid are caught using fishing lines equipped with jigs, usually seen on small vessels registered with 12 to 15 miles off the eastern coast of Medan. Some fishermen catch squid by pulling on a rope. This is one of the most popular techniques for catching them. Fishermen need to throw squid bait and then wait a few seconds until the bait touches the bottom. Then they pull the rope and raise the fishing line up and down. You can relax or stop for a few seconds to let the bait sink and then slowly jerk it back up. This technique makes the bait move continuously and attracts the squid. When hooked, the squid doesn't protest much, so there aren't many signs. But fishermen will feel the fishing line is a little heavier. Fishermen need to pull up the fishing line and reel it in gently. This is because sometimes the tentacles can escape the hooks if the fishermen reel too hard. Choosing the right bait is one of the important parts of squid fishing. Therefore, it is necessary to prepare bait according to colour and light reflection. Choosing the colour of squid bait can determine the success or failure of a squid fishing trip. In around 3 days at sea, you could catch around 300 kilograms of squid. Fishermen Bangka Belitung choose squid fishing because it's easy to catch them and they have a high selling value, bringing in more profit than other types of fishing. Indonesia's tuna catch is among the top in the world all year round, accounting for around 16% of the world's total tuna supply. In 2023, the country caught and produced 790,000 tons of tuna, worth around $1.7 billion. Yellowfin and skipjack tuna are by far the most popular targets. They are most common in Indonesia from May till October. Often fishermen will find large schools of tuna in deeper waters. During the spawning season, the abundant tuna resources in the Indian and Pacific Oceans will return to the Indonesian archipelago, where the sea level is shallower and richer in nutrients. This is an ideal environment for the growth and reproduction of tuna. At the same time, it is also the best time for tuna fishing and trading activities. Fishermen mainly use seine nets to catch. They will determine the current and wind direction through the movement of the boat. The net is usually placed diagonally across the water line. When all the nets and buoys are released into the sea, the fishermen have their initial success in catching. Buoys floating on the water create an enclosure. Below the sea surface is a super large trap. The tuna did not know that they were swimming in a fishing net. When the fishermen pull up the net, all the tuna will be brought on board. The tuna is pulled onto the ship using a crane and conveyor system. To ensure quality, tuna is stored immediately in cold storage to ensure the freshness of the meat. Fishermen have to go offshore for weeks looking for schools of tuna. They move very fast and can swim long distances, making casting and hauling nets very difficult. In addition, fishermen have to work in harsh conditions and must store tuna at very low temperatures to maintain quality. Fishing in Indonesia is not a hot spot, and it's not famous for its luxury vessels. But still, it creates adventure for fishermen. There's the excitement of chasing and catching giant marlin. Marlin are commonly found in coastal waters, from coral reefs to the edge of the continental shelf. These marlin are famous for their ability to swim fast, engage in fierce battles, and test even the sturdiest fishing rods. Therefore, marlin fishing has very little chance of success. They are also masters of escape. Fishermen must learn tricks to be able to save a lot of time and money on their trips. Every year, marlin migrate closer to shore, following the warm tropical waters south. During their migration, they will stop and feed where bait fish are abundant. And that's where fishermen focus their efforts in order to get the best fishing results. Marlin can be caught using a variety of fishing techniques, depending on the location. Ships in Indonesia often catch marlin using nets. When choosing a suitable location, fishermen will cast their nets. The net is soaking in the sea for around 4 to 6 hours. After a while, the fishermen will start pulling the net to check if they've caught something. If they are lucky, they will discover giant marlins. The weight of the marlin is really heavy, so each batch requires around 4 to 5 fishermen to pull the net up together. They coordinated well together to control and remove the marlin from the net. To be safe, the fishermen cut off its sharp tip. This is a weapon that can injure fishermen. After this, the fishermen will wash the fish and remove any excess dirt and debris in order to prepare for the preservation process. Some fishermen will be in charge of transferring the newly harvested marlin to the storage area. The process of transferring fish to the cellar is also quite difficult. First, the fishermen will tie down a rope to the fish's tail and 2 people will pull the rope to bring the fish down to the ship's hold. Fishermen standing on the below deck will coordinate to reduce pressure. After sorting, the marlin is transferred to frozen storage for preservation until they reach shore. Priced at between $106 to $128 a pound, king and snow crabs could be some of the best crabs you could ever eat in your life. In the US, after being harvested, they are quickly transported to St. Paul, Alaska, home to the world's largest crab processing plant. During peak season, this plant can churn out an astonishing 50,000 to 500,000 pounds of crab every day. Machines handle up to 40 crabs per minute, separating the edible legs and parts from the main body. These sections are then sorted by size and packed into 45-pound containers. Next, the crabs undergo an 18-minute cooking process at 210 degrees Fahrenheit, followed by a cooling bath. To lock in flavour and freshness for up to 2 years, the crabs are soaked in a frigid 92% saltwater brine before being given a quick freshwater rinse. Finally, the processed crab is packaged into 45-pound bags and boxed, stacked, and frozen. The plant can produce a staggering 6,000 to 8,000 boxes daily, thanks to a dedicated workforce of 320 people. Live or freshly caught blue crabs with a pH between 6.8 and 7.2 are the most suitable for producing the highest quality canned crab. Once at the factory, the crabs are thoroughly cleaned to remove dirt and bacteria from the shell. Next, they proceed to shell the crabs, removing any excess parts and rinsing the crabs again with water. Some facilities skip this part and steam or boil them whole. After steaming, the crabs are removed and cooled. They are then brought to skilled workers for careful meat extraction. This process is done manually, using specialized tools to separate the meat and claws from the body of the crab. Any unwanted particles, shell fragments, or spoiled meat are removed. The extracted crab meat is sorted and inspected carefully before packing. In 2023, the global consumption of fresh canned crab reached a value of $17 billion. Sashimi is one of the most famous tuna dishes originating from Japan. Some tuna are gutted as soon as they're brought to shore, but they're very expensive, and some can cost over $500,000. However, most sashimi served in medium-sized restaurants is tuna thawed from frozen ones. These tuna were frozen immediately after being caught, so they're still very fresh. Each fish is weighed and recorded. Tuna of similar weights are placed in the same cage and stored until cutting. Tuna is cut in a slice at the tail and then thawed in order to classify the fish's grade. After that, each fish is cut, and the workers must be very careful because the cutting machine is extremely sharp. First, the fish is cut into 4 parts, then each part is trimmed more neatly. The tuna skin is also scraped off because it's not used for sashimi. Each year, Japan catches around 102,000 tons of tuna, and over 60% of the tuna is cut and frozen like this for sashimi. The brownish part of the fish is scraped away. Then, the fish is cut into smaller pieces according to the customer's request. Finally, the fish pieces are packed in cold boxes and delivered to restaurants. While it's famous in Japan, Indonesia is actually the world's largest producer of tuna. It's estimated that they produce around 18% of the global tuna catch. Japan's canned seafood industry is booming, with mackerel leading the way. Mackerel arrive at the factory when they're first rinsed in cold water. Next, they're steamed, with cooking time adjusted based on the fish's size and quantity. Once cooked, the mackerel is cooled and dried. Workers then manually clean the fish, removing the skin, head, red meat, and bones. Depending on customer orders, the mackerel is then cut into large chunks or shredded flakes. The cut mackerel is then packed into cans. Each can is weighed and inspected by X-ray to detect unwanted metal substances and mackerel parts that shouldn't have been in the can. Vegetable oil, brine, and sometimes flavorings are added to the cans, which are then sealed and cleaned. The sealed cans undergo high temperature sterilization. This process preserves the mackerel. After cooling, the cans are labeled and packaged, ready for shipment within a week. In 2021 alone, Japan exported nearly 434,000 tons of mackerel, with Ibaraki and Nagasaki as the two top prefectures for mackerel landings. The US is the world's leading producer and consumer of turkeys. During their major national holiday, Thanksgiving, approximately 46 million turkeys are consumed. When turkeys reach the desired weight, they are loaded onto trucks using conveyors that keep the turkeys upright without being crushed. The unloading process is done almost entirely in the dark to keep the turkeys calm. They are then hung from hooks and stunned with electricity. The stunning causes them to lose sensation and become unconscious immediately. After that, they are passed over a sharp blade to be bled. The turkeys are then placed in a machine to be scalded in hot water. Then their feathers are plucked by this machine's brushes. The body is then opened up by workers, using a specialized machine to process the turkey's internal organs. This big turkey facility in California can process up to 60,000 turkeys an hour. The gizzard is a popular part and requires skilled workers to process. These organs are sorted, placed in a separating machine and quickly chilled before being packaged and sold. They are then sent to a cutting machine to separate the legs from the body. Some facilities keep the legs and cut other parts first. For the remaining carcasses, workers perform a final quality check on the outside, and a machine checks the inside. The turkey carcasses are then sent to the packaging team to be packaged whole. Some facilities process them into smaller parts. Now, the whole turkeys are sent to the cutting machine, having their heads removed and washed to clean out any remaining blood. Then they are deboned and cut into different parts for packaging and consumption. Snakes are typically harvested for their meat when they're about 6 months to a year old. To be considered top quality, they should weigh at least 1.1 pounds. Only male snakes are used for meat. Females are kept for breeding. After being killed, the snakes are carefully processed. Their internal organs are removed and the skin is peeled off in one whole piece. The meat is thoroughly cleaned and cut into pieces. Known for its leanness and slightly sweet taste, snake meat is a popular delicacy in exotic markets. China is a major producer of snake meat, processing an estimated 14 to 18 million pounds annually. About 40% of this ends up on people's plates. Snake soup is a traditional Chinese dish, believed to ward off colds, ease pain, and even promote longevity. In 2023, China's famous snake village sold over 3 million snakes to pharmaceutical companies. These companies use the snake's gallbladders and skin to make health supplements that are popular in Japan, South Korea, the US, and Europe. but it's snake venom that's truly prized. Known as liquid gold in China, the potent mix of enzymes and toxins can sell for an incredible $450 to $750 per gram, depending on the snake species. The waters around Indonesia are amazing. They are full of healthy fish and tiny squid. There are thousands of species of seafood that call this sea their home. This is also a place fishermen do not want to miss out on. Now let's watch how Indonesian fishermen catch millions of tons of seafood.